Over half of IELTS speaking candidates score below Band 7 worldwide. In this video, you will hear a Band 9 student answer questions asked by the examiner. I have spent years helping thousands of IELTS candidates move from Band 7 to Band 9, and I have seen exactly what it takes. Let's get started. Part 1. Introduction and Interview. Good afternoon. My name is Paul Tate. Could you tell me your full name, please?
Good afternoon. My name is Sophie Redmond. My relatives and work colleagues call me Sophie, so just call me Sophie.
Where are you from?
I'm from Seoul, South Korea, but I've been living in Melbourne for the past 3 years while I complete my studies.
Do you often stay up late at night?
More often than I'd like to admit, actually. I'd say about 3 or 4 times a week, I end up going to bed after midnight, which I know isn't ideal for my health.
What usually keeps you awake when you stay up late?
It's usually a combination of things. Sometimes it's coursework that I've left until the last minute, but more often than not, it's just getting caught up in social media or watching videos online. I'll tell myself I'm just going to watch one more thing, and then suddenly it's 2 a.m.
Did you also stay up late when you were a child?
No, definitely not. My parents were quite strict about bedtime when I was young. I had to be in bed by 9 p.m. on school nights, no exceptions. I think staying up late became a habit after I left home for university and had more freedom over my schedule.
How do you usually feel the next morning if you don't get enough sleep?
Pretty terrible, to be honest. I feel groggy and unfocused, and it takes me ages to properly wake up. I usually need at least 2 cups of coffee just to function normally. My concentration is also noticeably worse, which makes studying quite difficult.
Do you think staying up late affects your daily routine?
Absolutely, it does. When I haven't slept enough, everything takes longer. Getting ready in the morning, completing assignments, even simple tasks. I also tend to skip breakfast or exercise when I'm tired, which creates a kind of negative cycle. I'm trying to break this habit, but it's surprisingly difficult.
Have you ever learned about outer space or stars?
Yes, quite a bit, actually. I've always found space fascinating, so I've read various books and articles about astronomy over the years. I also watch a lot of documentaries about the universe, black holes, and things like that.
Where did you learn about space? At school or somewhere else?
I learned the basics at school, but most of my interest developed outside the classroom. I remember watching a documentary series about planets when I was a teenager, and that really sparked my curiosity. Since then, I've learned mostly through online resources and books I've chosen to read myself.
Do you enjoy watching science fiction movies?
Yes, I really enjoy them. Science fiction films allow you to imagine possibilities that don't exist yet, which I find quite exciting. They often explore philosophical questions about humanity and our future in creative ways.
What do you like about science fiction films?
I like how they challenge your imagination and make you think about complex issues. Good science fiction often uses futuristic scenarios to comment on current social problems. I also enjoy the visual effects and the sense of wonder they create. Seeing imaginative depictions of space travel or alien worlds is always impressive.
Part 2 Cue Card. Now I am going to give you a topic. You will have to talk about the topic for 1 to 2 minutes. You have 1 minute to think about what you're going to say. You can make some notes to help you if you wish. Here is your cue card. Describe a piece of technology you own that you find difficult to use. You should say what the technology is, when you got it, what you got it for, and explain how you feel about using this technology. 1 minute for preparation is over. Please begin when you are ready.
I'd like to talk about my digital camera, which is a fairly advanced DSLR that I received as a graduation gift from my parents about a year ago. They knew I was interested in photography, so they wanted to give me something that would help me pursue this hobby more seriously. The camera itself is quite sophisticated. It has numerous buttons, dials, and menu settings that control everything from aperture and shutter speed to ISO sensitivity and white balance. While this level of control is exactly what serious photographers need, for someone like me who's still learning, it can be completely overwhelming. When I first got the camera, I was excited, but also quite intimidated. The instruction manual was about 200 pages long and filled with technical jargon that I didn't understand. I'd been using my phone camera for years, which automatically adjusts everything for you, so suddenly having to manually control all these different settings felt like learning a new language. I've been trying to improve by watching online tutorials and practicing regularly, but progress has been slow. Sometimes I'll think I've got the settings right, but the photos come out overexposed or blurry. It's frustrating because I know the camera is capable of producing amazing images. I've seen other people's work with the same model, but I haven't quite figured out how to use it properly yet. My feelings about the camera are quite mixed. On one hand, I'm grateful to own such a high-quality piece of equipment, and I appreciate that my parents invested in something expensive for me. On the other hand, I sometimes feel inadequate when I can't get it to work the way I want. There have been moments when I've considered just selling it and going back to phone photography because it would be so much easier. However, I'm determined to master it eventually. I've started taking a photography course at a local community center, which has been helpful. I think the main issue is that I expected instant results, but like any skill, photography requires patience and consistent practice. So while it's still difficult to use, I'm gradually becoming more comfortable with it. And I'm starting to see small improvements in my photos, which keeps me motivated.
Part 3. Discussion. Abstract topics. How has the development of technology changed the way people work?
Technology has transformed work in numerous ways. Probably the most obvious change is that many people can now work remotely from home or anywhere with internet access, which was much less common before. Communication has also become much faster through email and instant messaging, which means decisions can be made more quickly. Additionally, many routine tasks have been automated, allowing workers to focus on more complex or creative aspects of their jobs. However, this also means people are often expected to be available outside traditional working hours, which can blur the boundaries between work and personal life.
Why do technology companies update their products so frequently?
There are several reasons, I think. Competition is a major factor. Companies need to keep releasing new features to stay ahead of their rivals. There's also consumer expectation. People have become accustomed to regular updates and improvements, so companies feel pressure to keep innovating. From a business perspective, frequent updates encourage people to upgrade and spend more money. Sometimes updates are necessary to fix security issues or bugs, but I suspect that many updates are released more for marketing purposes than genuine improvement.
Do you think people feel pressured to buy the latest technology?
Yes, definitely, though it varies by person and culture. Social media has intensified this pressure because people constantly see others using the newest devices, which can create a sense of being left behind if you don't upgrade. There's also something called planned obsolescence, where older devices are designed to become outdated or unsupported after a certain period, which essentially forces people to upgrade. Marketing campaigns are very effective at making people feel like they need the latest features, even when their current device works perfectly fine. That said, I think more people are becoming aware of this pressure and are choosing to keep their devices longer, both for financial and environmental reasons.
Should everyone learn how to use new technology? Why or why not?
I believe basic digital literacy should be accessible to everyone, but whether someone needs to learn every new technology depends on their circumstances. For most people, understanding fundamental technology skills like using the internet, email, and basic software is increasingly necessary for employment and daily life. However, not everyone needs to master every new gadget or platform that emerges. Elderly people, for example, might prioritize learning technologies that help them stay connected with family rather than the latest social media trends. So while I think everyone should have the opportunity to learn, the specific technologies they need to master should be relevant to their individual situations.
Do young people find it easier to use new technology than older people?
Generally speaking, yes, though this isn't always the case. Young people have grown up surrounded by technology, so they're often more comfortable experimenting with new devices and interfaces. They're also less afraid of making mistakes or breaking something, which helps them learn through trial and error. Older generations sometimes approach new technology more cautiously, perhaps because they didn't grow up with it and find rapid changes overwhelming. However, I've noticed that when older people are motivated, for example, to video call their grandchildren, they can learn quite quickly. So while there might be a generational difference, motivation and attitude play important roles too.
What problems can people face if they don't keep up with technological changes?
The consequences can be quite significant, actually. In the workplace, people who lack technological skills might find it harder to get hired or could lose their jobs to automation. Even in everyday life, many essential services are moving online. Banking, healthcare appointments, government services, so people without digital skills can become excluded or disadvantaged. There's also a social aspect. As more communication happens through digital platforms, people who aren't comfortable with technology might feel isolated or disconnected from their communities. Additionally, they might be more vulnerable to scams or security issues because they don't understand online risks. That's why digital literacy programs are so important. They help ensure that technological advancement doesn't leave certain groups of people behind.
Carefully listen to the feedback. Let's start with the overall strengths: fluency and coherence. Sophie speaks smoothly with natural flow and minimal hesitation. She uses discourse markers like "to be honest," "actually," and "more often than not" to create conversational rhythm. Sophie organized ideas logically, using effective linking phrases such as "on one hand," "on the other hand," and "that said," to structure her responses. Lexical resource. Sophie's vocabulary range is impressive, with natural use of idiomatic expressions, collocations, and topic-specific terminology. She demonstrates this particularly well when discussing technical concepts and showing appropriate hedging with phrases that convey nuance and qualification. Grammatical range and accuracy. Sophie uses complex structures confidently, including relative clauses, conditionals, and perfect tenses. Her sentences show variety and sophistication while maintaining accuracy. Subscribe to the channel so you do not miss 2 videos I publish weekly. All the best in your preparation.